This shocking true crime story turns movie theaters into nightmares at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3, and the air in the empty theater was thick with an unsettling tension. Shadows danced across the walls like restless spirits, as if waiting for something that would never come. A haunting silence enveloped the seats, each one long abandoned, resembling ghostly figures frozen in time. The dusty screen, once vibrant with colors and laughter, now loomed like a sentry over an eerie graveyard of forgotten dreams. One night, a group of friends dared to venture into that very place. Lured by the allure of urban legends whispered in dark corners tales of a spirit that roamed the halls after hours, seeking revenge for an unspeakable betrayal. They went in, fueled by curiosity, their hearts pounding with both excitement and terror. Except this wasn't just any night. This was the night when the line between the living and the dead blurred. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging them into darkness. A cold draft swept past, brushing against their skin like icy fingers, tightening chests and sending waves of fear coursing through their veins. "Did you feel that?" someone whispered, eyes wide and fear evident on their face. The others nodded, their voices caught in their throats, disbelief settling in like a thick fog over the night. Each creak of the old building echoed ominously, too loud for comfort. A soft whisper slipped through the thick air, barely audible but unmistakably chilling. "Get out!" it hissed. Panic rose like smoke, burning their insides, urging them to flee. But the door to the exit slammed shut with a powerful thud, sealing their fate. They were trapped. The walls seemed to close in on them. One friend, entranced by shadows, suddenly pointed to the screen. "Look!" The image flickered to life. A ghostly figure moved across the frame, its face twisted in anguish. It was her. Was that the woman from the stories? The same one who vanished 5 years ago on a night eerily similar to this? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The friends huddled together, trembling, eyes darting to the screen that shimmered with static. The whispers grew louder, wrapping around them like chains, growing more frantic. Desperation clawed at their throats. "We need to find a way out," someone shouted, but it was lost in the chaos. Suddenly, a sharp laugh pierced the air. It was a laugh that didn't belong. Heartbeats thundered in their ears, drowning out everything but that chilling sound. The room felt alive, every shadow a predator stalking close behind, tightening its grip. They turned to the exit, only to see a figure blocking their path, shrouded in darkness. Was it her? The woman from the screen? She stepped forward, and the lights flickered once more, revealing a face marked with sorrow and despair. Her eyes sparkling with a terrible knowledge. With a scream, one of them took a step back, and then everything went dark again. The last thing they heard was a whisper, "You shouldn't have come here." What happened next? Did they escape or become just another chapter in the theater's cursed history? Only time would tell. The panic was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. Darkness engulfed them, swallowing the last remnants of hope. Seconds dragged on like hours, every breath a struggle against the weight of fear. The chilling whisper echoed in their minds. "You shouldn't have come here." Heart racing, the group instinctively moved closer, their bodies pressed together like a makeshift shield against whatever entity loomed in the shadows. The faint flicker of the screen began to draw their attention once again. Images twisted and churned, each frame revealing more of the anguished woman. Her mouth opened in a silent scream, as if she were trapped in an endless loop of torment. "What does she want?" one friend shouted, the panic creeping into his voice. The others shook their heads, unsure and terrified. With the exit barred, there was no other choice but to confront the specter that threatened to swallow them whole. As if answering the question, the dark figure surged forward, her sorrowful gaze piercing through the gloom. One of the friends, nervous and desperate, called out, "Do you need help? We can help you." But the words felt hollow, useless against the soul standing before them. In an instant, a chill wind spiraled through the theater, whipping up dust and sending shivers racing down their spines. The room was alive, a pulsating entity, filled with rage and heartache. The ghostly figure raised her arm, and with it, the theater responded, lights flickering wildly as the tortured energy grew more palpable. "What if we're not meant to exist together in the same time?" Someone whispered, thoughts turning darker, as they grasped the theory lurking at the edge of their minds. They could be part of the problem, a relic of the laughter and joy now overshadowed by tragedy. With a sudden surge of courage, one friend shouted, "We're not here to hurt you. We're sorry." His voice trembled, revealing the quaking fear within, but something in the spirit resonated with the sincerity. The flickering light softened slightly, the shadows recoiling as if they could feel the urgency in his words. Just then, the figure spoke, her voice an echo of a distant past, filled with pain. "You've brought fear where there should be light. You disturb what was meant to be forgotten." Each syllable rolled through the air, chilling and beautiful as it swept into their souls. They could feel the warmth of the spirit, yet it bit like ice. "You must choose," she said. The choice lay heavy in the room, and the friends exchanged frantic glances, realizing that the only escape from this nightmare may involve confronting their own fears. "What do we need to do?" one of the friends urged, heart hammering. There was no escape without understanding. Silence enveloped them for a moment before her mournful eyes drilled into each of them. The depth of her suffering reflected back. "Face your truth or become a part of my story," she whispered, as the light flickered once more, threatening to plunge them back into the abyss. Suddenly, the floor shook beneath them, as if the very theater itself was alive, trying to swallow them whole. The friends took a collective breath, the weight of uncertainty pressing down hard. "What truth?" they shouted, voices breaking through the encroaching darkness. As shadows whispered their secrets, the group huddled closer, fears intertwining, forming a tangled web of despair. They could feel the ground shift beneath them. Something was about to snap. Would they uncover the truth and escape, or become another lost soul within the dark history of the theater? And in that moment, a blinding flash lit up the space, revealing something horrifying behind the screen. What lay there, hidden in plain sight, only time would tell. The air crackled with tension. The blinding flash died down, and darkness clung to them like a suffocating shroud. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown to catastrophe. In front of them, a grotesque tableau began to emerge as reality reshaped itself. What they had glimpsed was no mere illusion, this was a glimpse into the theater's twisted past. Each face on the screen became clearer. Screams echoed, ghostly from some far-off memory, the memories of joy, laughter, and life now turned into shrieks of agony, filling the room with a sorrow that weighed heavily on their hearts. They could almost feel the warmth of bodies that had once filled the theater with life, now replaced by an icy dread. "What the hell is happening?" a girl in the group cried, her voice high-pitched with fear. "Look," another friend pointed, forehead wrinkled in confusion. "It's like it's showing us something." The spectral figure's gaze fixed on them, and for a brief moment, time hung suspended. Her mouth moved, but the whispers turned to echoes, a haunting melody that tugged at their very souls. "Your truths are etched in the shadows. It's the only way to free me and yourselves." Reality twisted, offering them fleeting images of the past. A murderous betrayal, a passionate love lost, and faded hopes buried under the weight of time. Each image threatened to pull them in, to ensnare them in the very tragedies that had haunted this theater for decades. "I can't," the boy with the shaking hands staggered back. "I can't face this." A crack scattered across the floor beneath him, seeping shadows rising like spirits reaching out with ghostly hands. Frantic and overwhelmed, the group pressed together tightly, desperation painted on their faces. They needed a plan, a way to navigate this dark graveyard of memories besmirched by pain. As if sensing their turmoil, the dark figure surged forward again, a fiendish grin twisting her face. It was almost predatory. "You will face your fears, or be consumed by mine. Tonight, the truth writes its tale. Everything was spinning. The world felt alive with chaos, shadows dancing and laughing in wicked delight. Fingers trembling, they held on tighter to one another. We can do this. We have to figure out how our lives tie to this mess. Someone yelled, struggling to pierce through the dread that seemed ever more unrelenting. With a sudden blast of energy, the screen flickered again, and images of their own lives interspersed with the theater's tragedies warped across their minds, their secrets, their regrets. It stung like a bitter frost burning their skin. Why are we seeing this? A girl gasped, struggling to breathe as a wave of shame washed over her. Because we belong to this place now, another friend replied, eyes wide with realization. To understand her pain is to confront our own. Just then, the walls surrounding them began to tremble, cracks spidering outward. The air was thick with desperation and unspoken truths. Disjointed voices echoed, each line sharper than the last, growing louder as if the theater itself was pleading for a resolution. Can we really face what we hide? Another friend whispered, the dread surfacing as palpable as the dust swirling in the dim light. And there it was, the pulse of the theater, thrumming in tandem with their hearts. As the shadows clawed closer, they knew the time for hesitation was over. We can't let fear bind us any longer. The ground beneath them groaned like a sorrowful beast. In that instant of courage, an unseen force ripped through the theater, a blinding light illuminating every hidden corner, exposing the horrid truth behind their individual fears. With their revelations spiraling into chaos, they had to muster the strength to overcome. But as they plunged into the dark, uncharted depths of their own horror, one question loomed larger than the rest. Would unearthing the truth liberate them, or would it bury them deeper into the darkness they sought to escape? The light flared brighter, casting sinister shadows that twisted like living creatures on the walls. Faces contorted in horror blinked in and out of focus, merging with the cries of the damned that echoed through the space. Nausea surged as the weight of their secrets pressed heavily on their chests. Stay together, someone shouted, voice thick with panic. They huddled closely, but each pulse of the theater's energy sent them reeling back, as if the very walls were alive and hungry for the truth. The ghostly figure, once a vague threat, now loomed ominously in front of them, her form shifting fluidly between anguish and fury. Every lie, every moment of fear, they are your chains. Break them or be forever trapped. Her eyes pierced through the dark, locking onto each of them. One by one, a boy stepped forward defiantly. What do you want from us? His voice quivered as bravado melted into despair. I want you to remember, to understand, she hissed, lips curling into a chilling smile. Only by confronting the darkness within can you hope to escape the darkness without. Her voice rose, echoing with a cacophony of madness that rattled the windows as she spoke. Images erupted again, this time flooding with speed. Each vision was more horrific than the last. A girl betrayed by her best friend, a family torn apart, a hidden love pushed to the brink of despair. Reality itself warped around them. They weren't just spectators. They were participants in a tragic play scripted by their own lives. The shadows are shadows, they're part of us. Another friend screamed, tears streaming down her face. We can't just run from them. Yet fear twisted in their bellies, knotting tighter like a noose. But what if facing them kills us? A boy whispered, dread pooling in his eyes. Weren't we already dead inside? A girl replied bitterly, raw anguish cracking her voice. What else left to lose? That truth hung in the air, a blade poised over them. The flickering whispers in the shadows stirred, revealing secrets concealed even from themselves. Struggles of guilt and heartbreak surfaced, pulling them deeper. The weight of their mistakes felt insurmountable, and every fleeting moment felt like drowning. Listen, hear them. The girl who once screamed now shouted with fierce conviction. They want to be free, the ghost, this place. They're trapped just like we are. The air chilled as if the theater itself inhaled in anticipation. Agony was their tether, yet so was hope. And in that heart-racing silence, they came to a collective understanding. The only way was through. They unshackled their tongues, one by one, allowing the truths to pour forward like a dam bursting. Voices trembled with vulnerability, the safety of secrets stripped away. Their fears were laid bare in that dim, turbulent space, raw and relentless. Suddenly, the spectral figure shifted. She appeared less monstrous, more tragic, her smile revealing pain rather than malice. Yes, feel your truths. Only then can you understand mine, and perhaps, together we can rewrite our fate. But as hope flickered, something sinister lurked in the corners of their minds. Shadows coiled around their legs, drawing nearer, gnashing teeth echoing like wind chimes in a storm. Don't let them take you. Fight! Someone yelled as the ground shook violently. Emboldened, they reached for one another, grasping tightly as they faced the wall of darkness looming before them. Resolute, they were about to let go of their darkest secrets when an ear-splitting screech erupted from the depths of the theater, shattering their moment of courage. The walls threatened to collapse. Now, came the voice, as the energy surged around them, binding and crackling with tension. Face your fears or be lost forever. In the turmoil of flashing images and haunting cries, one thought remained. Could they truly break free, or were they destined to become just another act in the cursed theater's unending play? As the darkness twisted around them, something crackled fiercely at the edge of consciousness, something ancient and terrible. Would this be the moment they discovered their true selves, or the moment they plunged deeper into unending despair? A pulse of energy surged through the air, a maddening hum that felt like a living entity. The spectral figure's laughter twisted around them, echoing with a mixture of glee and despair. It was as if the very fabric of the theater was feeding off their fear. The floor trembled beneath their feet, a warning rattle that would not cease. Now is the time. Your truth or your doom. The ghost's voice morphed into a thunderclap that sent a chill racing down their spines. Each word carried the weight of their confessions, the shards of lives untold. That I end that moment. Time distorted. The room blurred into a kaleidoscope of shifting shadows and fragmented memories. Each of them caught between the grave and dreaming. They were overtaken by a visceral need to scream, to run. Yet they remained frozen in the spotlight of their unrelenting truths. One by one, they stepped toward the phantom, each revealing pieces of their souls as if peeling off layers of skin. I lied about the accident. I was behind the wheel. A girl shouted, her voice cracking on the edge of a sob. I didn't fight back. I let them hurt me. A boy, trembling, added, grounding the rawness of his memories in the air. I told my brother I hated him. I thought it was the last time I'd see him. Another's voice broke, unleashing a flood of tears that splashed onto the ground, absorbing the sorrow around them. The ghost transformed with each confession, her anguish becoming palpable. Pain surged through the air, reverberating against the walls, reverberating in their chests. They were no longer just companions caught in a web of horror. They were witnesses to their collective agony, and with every truth released, the shadows began to retreat. Feel it, she urged, her eyes shimmering with both sorrow and resolve. Let go of the pain. Don't let it consume you. You are more than your fears. As if tasting hope for the first time, they clutched at one another, pressing forward. Yet the shadows recoiled, letting out a wailing shriek as they grappled to grasp at the light amidst them. I can't do this, a boy cried, hands shaking. What if we don't survive this? Look around you. A girl replied fiercely, determination ablaze in her eyes. We've been dying every day we hold these lies. Together we're stronger. With renewed spirit, they all began to speak in unison. A chorus of truths echoed through the theater, layering over itself like a rising tide, drowning out echoes of despair. Names, memories, fears. A tidal wave of raw emotion poured forth, breaking centuries of silence. But as light spread, darkness stirred. The phantom's figure flickered, morphing into a grotesque visage twisted with malice. Fools, she screeched, voice turning shrill. You think this is a victory? These truths are but stepping stones into deeper pain. Suddenly, shadows surged back with renewed ferocity. They roared to life, coiling and snapping, wild and ravenous, snatching at the glimmer of hope like wards against daylight. The walls echoed with wicked laughter, a brutal mockery of their bravery. Bracing for impact, the friends clung tightly together. "Stay together," one yelled, but it felt like a joke in the face of an oncoming storm. Fear gripped their hearts tighter than ever, visions of horror flared before their eyes. They saw not just the theater but an abyss yawning wide, demanding sacrifice. "Can we truly conquer this?" a girl gasped, breath hitching in her throat. "Is this our end?" And as the mists of darkness closed in rapidly, a thought niggled at the back of their minds. Was the ghost a guardian of truth, or a harbinger of doom? In that moment of suspended time, they realized. Confronting their past might not lead to salvation but to a reckoning far worse than they had imagined. Could they fight through the chaos, or would they drown in the abyss they had long feared? The air crackled, an electric charge lingering just out of reach. Something deep within the ground trembled, as if indicating that their time was running out. What horror awaited them in those shadows? What would they have to lose? The choice was theirs to make. The shadows expanded, surging forward in a black wave that seemed to devour the very light their truths had illuminated. The pulsating energy intensified around them, vibrating in their bones. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, echoing ominously in the hollow space of the theater. "Don't let it take you," someone shouted, terror seeping from every word. The voices around them, their cries for help, melded into a haunting symphony. Each confession had been a bolt of lightning, bright but fleeting, striking only to be consumed by the gathering storm. "Trust in each other. We've come this far." Another voice cut through the chaos, powerful and resolute. Its source came from the girl who had first admitted her guilt, her eyes gleaming with fervor. With a deep breath, fueled by raw courage, they locked eyes, binding their resolve. Together, they shouted, the word erupting like fireworks in a darkened sky. But the darkness shrieked back. It lashed out, tendrils whipping through the air, seeking any weakness. The terror clawed at their minds, visions of their worst times flickering like a warped film reel. Each image hit heavier than the last grief, regret, sorrow mingling into an anguish that ate at their souls. "Push it away." The boy who had spoken of his helplessness grasped the girl's hand, his grip a lifeline. "Focus on each other. Remember why we're here." As they gathered strength, the shadows ebbed slightly, recoiling as if taunted. A rippling wave raced through the crowd, connecting them in a web of mutual support. They began to chant again, voices swelling, drowning out the dark whispers gnashing at their sanity. "Our truths matter. We are not alone." A sharp crack rang out, an eerie silence dropping over the theater, as if the very air held its breath. Shadows coalesced around them, willing to strike, a demoness sneer forming in the ethereal glow. "You think this will save you?" The ghost's tone shifted, edged with venom. "You will face your reckoning, your sins laid bare. Witness the truth." The theater illuminated briefly, revealing flashes of their darkest moments projected across the walls. Each flicker held weight, pain, guilt, fear. Loud gasps erupted as they were faced with their regrets once more. The girl who had confessed to the accident recoiled as her voice echoed back. "I took a life, it was my fault. I didn't do anything to stop it." Another cried, hiding his face in shame. The specter loomed large, a suffocating shadow above them, its form now massive and grotesque. "There is no escape from what you have done." And then, as if summoned by despair, the darkness surged forth, a tidal wave threatening to crush them. Panic rippled through the group, leaving them gasping for any semblance of hope. "We can't give up." A voice broke through, desperate but filled with resolve. "Keep the light, fight for each other." Nods of understanding passed among them. Relying on fragmented truths, each clung tightly to a memory of strength, courage, love shaping a defense against the mounting terror. They stood, vulnerable yet defiant. But then, in an instant, everything shifted. The shadows whispered a secret, something unhinged that threatened to solidify their fears into reality. "Are you ready to face your greatest secret?" The ghost teased, twisting reality into a horrifying panorama. "A sacrifice is required," she hissed, laughter simmering in the air like gas before an explosion. Sudden uncertainty thrummed through the group. Whispers of betrayal wrapped around them like chains. What have we done? What will we lose? As the heat of turmoil spiraled into a vortex around them, they realized the weight of their choices. Their next confession might not just free them, could cost one of them everything. Who would dare step forward? The specter watched with hungry eyes, waiting. What truth would break them? What pivotal choice would lead one of them to their own doom? In that claustrophobic moment, dread filled the space once again. As the whispers grew louder, they began to realize they stood on the edge of something far darker than they could ever imagine, and time was slipping away. What final truth would be demanded of them, and would anyone be able to pay that price? The ground beneath them trembled, a pulse of raw energy that thrummed with palpable fear. The specter loomed larger, its shadow stretching like grasping fingers, tightening around their throats. "Choose!" it mocked, voice slithering through the air like a serpent. "One of you will stand alone to confess. Will your guilt shatter you, or will it set you free?" The silence that followed felt suffocating. Each person blinked against the dim light, faces cast with worry and doubt. A few exchanged hurried glances, questions lingering unspoken in the electric air. Who could bear the burden of confession alone? Was it worth trading a single life for the flickering hope of salvation for the rest? Sweat beaded on their foreheads, anxiety coursing through them like ice. "How do we choose?" a girl whispered, her hands trembling. "What gives us the right to condemn someone else?" "It's not about condemning anyone," a boy countered, his voice shaking. "It's about revealing the truth, to banish this darkness." The specter chuckled a horrible sound that sent shivers rippling down their spines. "Ah, but truth has its price. What would you sacrifice for freedom? What if it costs you a friend, a brother, or even yourself?" Eager glances shifted to the girl who had first spoken up. Her resolve had lit hope in them. "I'll go first," she shouted, struggling to stand tall amidst the rising shadows. "I took a life. I owe it to all of you to say it again. I was careless. Someone died because of me." "No." Another voice exploded from the crowd, panic cracking through the noise. "That's not fair. You can't bear that weight alone. No choice is fair here." The specter interrupted, its form undulating like mist, envisioning their deepest fears. "Each of you dances on the edge. One must shoulder the blame. The darkness feeds on division." A figure stepped forward, confident, stubborn, and unwilling to let the girl carry that burden. "Enough. I'd rather take the blame for a mistake than watch someone else drown in shame." His voice was solid, but his hands shook. "I never stopped it. I stood there while..." The girl reached out to him, her voice a thread of sanity. "No. We all have sins. This is not just about one person. The shadows will twist our words, turn us against each other." With every declaration, the shadows pulsated violently, responding to each confession as if feasting on the darkness inside them. More memories flickered to life, illuminating the front of the theater, a montage of guilt and despair. "I did nothing when he needed me," echoed a voice. "I should have known." The ghost's laughter rang out again, echoing through the hollow hall. "You're all so blind. It will consume you unless you confront the truth. Speak your secret, the one you hide deep inside. Only then can you truly save yourselves." A hush enveloped the group. It was a desperate silence filled with the weight of choice. Who would step forward to unravel their greatest fears? The stakes had risen, and time was running short. The walls seemed to close in, the darkness pressing tighter. "Do we risk everything?" Someone's voice quivered, breaking the despair. "How do we face what we've avoided?" Together, three voices shouted in unison, their unity sparking a flicker of hope. But the specter merely snickered, ramping up the tension in the air. "Will you all truly stand together? Or will fear fracture your bond?" A sudden stillness fell, punctuated only by the ghosts of their past. The shadows flickered hungrily, waiting for the pivotal moment, ready to drag them deeper into the abyss. The darkness seemed to crackle with anticipation, eager for both chaos and the inevitable sacrifice. But who would make that confession? And what were they willing to lose to sever the binding chains of fear once and for all? Would they draw strength from each other? Or would the specter's whisper lead them into betrayal? As the thoughts raced, dread settled heavily on their chests. They stood inches away from the edge of an unfathomable choice, a choice that could either redeem them or plunge them into darkness. Who would dare to speak first? The air buzzed with tension, thick and suffocating. Eyes darted nervously as the group braced on the precipice of a decision that could seal their fates. The specter pulsed higher, a silhouette against the feeble light, its menacing laughter resonating deep in their bones. Shadows writhed around them, growing bolder at the scent of fear. "Why do you hesitate?" it teased, each word a cold breath against their skin. "Do you not feel the weight of your own sins? The darkness within you is thick enough to taste." The girl who had offered her confession looked haunted, her expression spiraling with dread. "We can't let ourselves be turned against one another." She closed her eyes, shaking. "We need to fight this. Please, someone has to choose." A boy shifted uneasily, the creaking sound of his shoes almost deafening in the silence. "But who?" "Someone has to be brave enough to face it. We can't sacrifice anyone, not after what we've faced together. We can't afford to lose anyone at all." A voice cried out, panic escalating into a palpable scream. The specter thrived on their turmoil, its silhouette glowing with a sinister flame. "Together we stand, together we fall," murmured another girl, her breath trembling. "That's how it always was, but what if standing together leads to our ultimate doom?" The specter grinned, jagged teeth like shards of broken glass. "Oh, I love this little quandary. But tell me, what do they say about friendships formed in the heat of trials? Do they survive?" It moved closer, an entity that thrived on chaos, feeding hungrily on their insecurities. "We don't need to fight. We can," the boy stated, but each proclamation felt weaker in the echo of the specter's taunts. "Face the truth," the ghost hissed, mockingly emphasizing the words, shrouded by a veil of darkness. "What secret binds you? Do you wash the blood from your hands with silence? Will you choose a scapegoat to appease your frailty?" One girl, seemingly defensive, clenched her fists. "Secrets build prisons, but revealing them could break us apart." She hesitated, glancing around. "I don't know if we're strong enough." No one could meet her eyes. The fear of facing their own truths was palpable. The dread hung in the air like fog, heavy, unyielding. "It will eat us alive," said the boy who had earlier stepped forward. He squinted at the dark, his face scrunched in desperation. What if we tell our stories together?" A younger kid, shaky yet brave, raised his voice. "But if everyone reveals their truth at once, will that take away the specter's power?" Some murmured in agreement, others recoiling in doubt. "Could backfire." A girl shouted, stepping back as if the specter itself were looming behind them. "No, we can't be divided. We need to stand firm," said the boy. "We have to trust each other." The specter recoiled, nearly vanishing into the darkness, sensing their growing determination. "Is this the path you wish to take?" it taunted, its voice a sultry whisper. "Tell your truths, then. But remember, once it is out, it cannot be taken back. Prepare for the echoes of remorse." "Do we dare?" the girl whispered, her voice shaking. "Will facing our shadows liberate us or destroy us?" The air crackled with uncertainty, an electric pull between them. Anxiety coiled tightly in their chests as the specter loomed larger, a dark reminder that the next move could tip the scales toward salvation or damnation. Who would unravel the threads of shared burdens first? And if they did, could their fragile bond withstand the weight of their confessions? Or would the darkness consume them all before this nightmare ended? As they hovered on the brink, one question remained. Who was truly ready to confess, and what specters would be unleashed in the aftermath? The silence fell like a heavy curtain, pressing down on them, suffocating yet thick with the promise of revelation. One by one, their gazes shifted, weighing the courage that hung in the air. Who would be the first to crack open the lid of their truth? The younger boy clenched his fists, trembling. I'll go first," he stuttered, his voice barely above a whisper. The specter seemed to pulse with interest, eager for the taste of hidden shame. "That's brave," whispered the girl beside him, her eyes wide with a mix of admiration and fear. He swallowed hard. "Just don't let the shadows take you." He took a deep breath, his voice strong yet shaky. "I was the one who broke into the old schoolhouse last month. I wanted to see if the rumors about the ghosts were true." A ripple of gasps coursed through the group, and the specter tilted its head, intrigued. "I told everyone it was harmless. But I found something I can't forget." "What did you find?" One girl pressed, her heart racing in anticipation. He took another shaky breath. "A diary with a name written inside. A girl who disappeared years ago. The last entry, it spoke of her debt to an unseen darkness. I didn't tell anyone, and I just left it there." His voice cracked. "What if I'm responsible? What if she's still trapped because I didn't act?" The darkness around them shrank slightly, feeding instead on the uncertainty that thickened the air. Yet, in the electric stillness of the moment, a boy who had been silent suddenly stepped forward. Shadows darted back, startled by his conviction. "I'll tell mine too," he said, his resolve unyielding. "Last summer I was in the woods at night. I saw an old man, he was lost, whispering words I can't forget. They felt like a curse. I turned away. I was too scared. What if I could have saved him?" The tension shifted. Confessions unleashed like fragile kites dancing against a storm. A girl, wide-eyed and trembling, chimed in. "I brought my friends to that place, the old highway. I knew it was dangerous. I thought it would be fun." Her voice rose, desperation fueling her words. "But after that night, things changed. My brother, he wanted to impress someone, and he vanished." Horror descended on the group like a heavy fog, chilling every heart. The specter reveled in the chaos, expanding its figure, feeding off the collective guilt. "Look how they squirm," it screeched, a mocking tone curling through the air. "Your sins breathe life into me. Oh, how deliciously frail each of you are." Yet their determination began to harden, a fragile yet growing steel within them. The boy who had urged for confession spoke again. "We won't let it win. Our truths can break the hold it has over us. Keep going. Face it together." Crackling energy surged among them, brave and chaotic. More confessions spilled forth, each raw and fervent as they bore their darkest secrets under the weight of the specter's gaze. One girl tearfully shared the isolated fights in her home. Another revealed her longing for acceptance, which had led her to betray a friend. Each secret, each shared burden, chipped away at the encroaching shadow. But another wave of doubt hung thick, and the specter responded, weaving between their words like a serpent. "Do you think the truth alone is enough? Secrets are the threads binding this nightmare. Release them and I will share with you the darker truths hidden inside the shadows." As the words spilled forth, an unsettling realization struck. What if revealing their truths did not lead to liberation but deeper despair? The girl who had trembled earlier spoke again, her face pale but striking. "Are we trading one prison for another? How do we know what you'll unleash?" The specter's laughter echoed, a cruel cadence. "Foolish children, the memories you carry are chains wrapped around your hearts. What are you willing to lose to set your souls free?" As the final words lingered, dread filled the void. They stood at the abyss, trembling as bitter winds of uncertainty roared around them. Would unveiling their torment deliver them to salvation, or would it ink their destinies with yet more darkness? The girl took one last look at her friends, their fearful faces mirroring her own. "Are we ready? Can we trust that our truths can conquer what lies in the depths?" In that moment, the air thickened once more, pregnant with an unanswered question that hung like a ghost. What if the real horror lay not in the specter, but within each of them? And with that unsettling thought, the darkness crashed down heavier than before, threatening to engulf them in eternal night. The echoes of their confessions hung in the air, simmering with desperation and determination. Every murmur seemed to linger, circling the room like a prayer. The specter's laughter faded as the shadows shifted, no longer the only force in the theater. You speak of truth as if it holds power, the ghost hissed, drawing closer, its form flickering erratically. But truth is merely the first step. Each of you carries a darkness as deep as mine. What will you do with it? The friends faced one another, breaths mingling, hearts pounding. The burden of their shared secrets felt heavy yet grounding. They refused to let the darkness swallow them whole. We are stronger together, a girl declared, squeezing another's hand tightly. Confession isn't just about regrets, it's about healing. With a renewed sense of purpose, the boy who first confessed continued, let us face it, not just the past but our very present fears. It's time to shed these chains. The air crackled with their collective will, igniting a flicker of light in the deepest recesses of the theater. Shadows writhed, reaching out as if to snuff it out. Yet the group steadied themselves, declaring in unison, we will not be bound by our fears any longer. The specter's grin widened, teeth like shards of glass, but there was trepidation in its eyes. The flickering light around the friends began to overlap, illuminating the walls with echoes of their truths. Each confession flared bright, seeking intimacy in the collective pain they bore. I feared speaking out of my pain, my shame. I thought it meant weakness, shouted a girl, her voice rising above the shadows, filled with a fierce clarity. I thought being tough meant never crying, a boy confessed. But I felt so lost. This is how we put an end to this, the girl who had first spoken declared, tears mingling with her resolve. We are here to remind each other of our worth. Our truths make us stronger. The specter howled, growing larger, its anger spilling over. You think your truths will save you? You will drown in them, just as I have. But the friends clung to each other tighter, forming an unbreakable circle. With every shared burden, the light grew stronger, illuminating their path. No, we choose ourselves and this bond over despair. The shadows screeched, pulled back, as if the light burned them. With hearts pounding, they turned to the specter, their voices uniting to form a powerful wave. You won't control us anymore. We are not your prisoners. As if struck by a wave, the specter twisted, the hatred and sorrow leaking from its form. Bright light began to shoot from the friends' chests, illuminating the theater with a sudden flood. It pushed against the darkness, revealing images long buried. The ghostly woman looked both anguished and relieved. You speak of the past, but you must embrace the other side as well, she whispered, her voice trembling with an emotion that resonated deeply within them. There is light in the truth if you truly choose to see it. The shadows recoiled, realizing their hold was slipping. With a final surge of energy, their collective light expanded and swelled like a tide, banishing the darkness that clung like a shroud. Suddenly, a blinding flash enveloped the room, and for a moment, all was silent. When the light settled, they found themselves back in the theater, alive, solid, and gripping each other tightly. Now surrounded by the warmth of color, laughter, and a hint of serenity. The ghostly figure stood before them, transformed, her anguish replaced with a gentle smile. Thank you, she said softly, the depth of her sorrow replaced with tenderness. You freed me. By confronting your truths, you've rewritten your fates and mine. With a last glance around, she began to fade, shimmering like stardust unraveling into the air. Remember, fear does not define you. Hold on to your truths, they shall guide you. And just like that, she was gone. The theater, once a prison of darkness, was now filled with light, a testament to the strength born from their shared struggle. A sense of peace blanketed the once haunted walls, leaving behind a palpable sense of shared freedom. The friends breathed deeply, the bonds of fear replaced by the warmth of solidarity. They turned to each other, eyes bright with relief, gratitude, and newfound hope. Well, that was something, one chuckled, wiping tears and laughter in equal measure. Maybe the stories are true after all, another remarked with a smile. As they walked out of the theater hand in hand, reality felt brighter, layered with the understanding that they each held a piece of light inside them. And so, with light shining in their hearts and truth on their lips, they stepped into a new day renewed, unafraid, and ready to write their own stories. Now, it's your turn to seal this moment. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next thrilling saga. Smash that like button now and help feed the algorithm. The more you like, the more stories we can share. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what just went down. Your thoughts mean everything. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True friends spread the tales of courage. This is the moment to show your support.